Okay, go, 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 go. Run, run, run. Very nice. Good takeoff. Start increasing your throttle. Increase your throttle. Landing gear बाहर और. Wait, 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 wait. Be ready to run. Be ready to run. Run. Increase your throttle.
Welcome to Will Talks. And today I have an incredible, absolutely incredible guest with me. His name is Mr. Samson D'Silva. I probably know him for over 20 years now. I know him as an ardent lover of automobiles. That's how I remember him. I think he was perhaps the first automobile journalist that I ever came across. He lives in a beautiful place called Virar, very close to the beach, and has been somebody who I really look up to learn so many things about automobiles, about robotics, about technology. And officially, he's actually the chief flying instructor for his own company called the Space Apple. And, I've personally learned under him. He teaches paragliding, paramotoring, and an active proponent of air-related sports. So we've heard water sports, and now today I hope that you're going to learn something about air sports. So welcome, Samson, at the Will
Nice.
Talks podcast. Yes,
Nice to be you. Very good. I'm pleasure to be here. And I've been associated with your school for some time now, maybe 15 years back or so. And I remember still have sweet memories about those treks we used to enjoy. Maybe one or two workshops which you conducted for the children in making small model planes which had interactive modes in when they could fly, make them come back to you and all. Memories.
So there's no airport in Vasai Virar Nalasupara. What is a chief flying instructor doing in Vasai Virar Nalasupara?
It's not really, airport is not necessary for hobby sports. Whether it is a microlight flying or whether it is even a small aircraft like a Cessna also can fly with a small runway. You can have an airstrip as such, not really have to have a proper runway. It can be an airstrip, maybe 400 meters, even 400 meters is fine. And for hobby sports, we have paragliding where you actually go to the mountain and fly. You go to the mountain top, inflate your wing, see whether everything is fine and just move forward and you get airborne. So you don't jump off the mountains. Unlike what people think about paragliding is that you go to the mountain and jump off. You don't jump off. That's skydiving. So there are several air sports and people do get confused in between each of them. And they have an unnecessary fear because this is a sport which has been practiced for several years and it has evolved. It has become safer and safer. The equipment has become safer and the teaching methods have become better and the risk factors are reducing. They will never be zero. I mean, any adventure sport, you can't say that there is no risk at all. You cannot eliminate risks.
Mhm.
What we do in adventure sports is we minimize the risk. We reduce the risk factors by looking at the limitations we have and staying within those limitations. And that's how you enjoy the sport. You get the adrenaline rush and the fun of flying.
So just for people who probably don't understand, what's the difference between parachute, paraglider, paramotor, a hand glider, a fixed wing glider, a microlight, or if you could just lay it all out like a little, difference.
That's quite interesting, and people will definitely. So here, when I'm talking about paragliding, it comes in a category called collapsible wings. What do I mean by collapsible? They can be folded and kept in your car or backpack, and there are more than 15 types of collapsible wings. So there is something called parachutes, which are used for dropping things from the sky. They will just come down vertically at a slow speed. That's the purpose of that. Then we have paratroopers, which has a small vent on the top and the speeds are slightly faster than the parachutes which are used for dropping things. And there the paratroopers are the army units basically. They have to go to the border areas and jump from the helicopters or even big aircrafts. Then we have skydiving, and which you jump from high altitude. And we have base jumping. So all these have different kind of wings. We have hot air balloon. We have something called zero gravity balloon. These are all collapsible wings. So parasailing is another one, and speed wing. And now, of course, we have wingsuits. So which are also actually flying wings. They are attached to your body, and you can. And of course, for landing they use a parachute, but they fly in the air. What you cover a lot, huge distances, and in fact, they have landed inside another aircraft as well. So all this is possibility of air sports with collapsible wings. Now we have something called fixed wings and we have flexi wings. Now flexi wings are like hang glider wing. It's a semi-rigid wing, and where you have weight shift for taking turns and all your body weight shift. And we have other microlights where we have thin fabric as a wing surface cover. And we also have fixed wings where we have aluminum foils designs and all. So many different kinds of sports which people didn't even imagine were existing earlier or didn't know are available today for people to fly even in India. So skydiving happens in India. We have paragliding, paramotoring. We have hot air balloon. We have powered hang gliding. We have skydiving jumps. We even have a artificial tunnel, the wing tunnel in India, in Hyderabad now.
I mean, I find it really difficult to believe because when you look at India, the whole nation is crazy after cricket, and then and every other sport I think is a category B, C, D, or E sport. So are you actually saying that this is a sport, this is available, people can learn it, and people can perform, and also there are possible careers that can come out of air sports?
Very much true. And though we are a bit late in terms of coming out with policies, the sport is more than 100 years old in India, air sports. And we had gliding centers which were built by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, what are gliding centers? These are aircrafts which don't have engines. Okay, so they are winched up, they are towed up. So we have a drum with a rope. In case of these sailplane gliders, they are big size aircrafts, two-seaters as well as single-seaters, and there can be a side-by-side seating arrangement for the pilot and the passenger, or the trainer, or else back and forth. And there were 18 such gliding centers started by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and this was with the whole intention of promoting air sports in India, so people could afford. Now, to make it affordable, those were less than 2 rupees for a flight. Of the minimum flight used to be of 5 minutes. And one such closest gliding center still exists, and which is in Pune, in Hadapsar. And we have one more in Nasik, at a place called Devlali. And they initially had wooden gliders, and they used to be towed up to maybe 1,800, 1,900 feet up, and the cable used to get released. So they didn't have engines. So they used to float in the sky like how eagles float in the sky. And they used to make circuit patterns and come back and land. So this sport is more than 100 years old in India. And available to common man.
That's unbelievable. Like, your first flight need not be something that you pay 10,000 rupees for. Your first flight could be something that you pay 200 rupees for, and it need not have an engine. So when it goes up, why doesn't it just come crashing down?
Okay, now that's an aerofoil which makes it generate lift while it is floating in the air. There is something called Bernoulli's principle. But just for the sake of common man, it's an aircraft with all the controls to go right, to go left, to have its angle change upwards to climb up, and an angle change downwards to descend. So these controls are there. It didn't have engine. Same thing like paragliding. Paragliding doesn't have an engine. Now, how do they stay up in the air for longer time? Now, for that, you have to understand a little bit about weather conditions. We have hot air. We have studied in school and seen in school that hot air is rising up. And the vacuum created is replaced by cool air. So this is how circulation of wind happens. On a nice hot sunny day, there are a lot of thermals we are generated which are going up, and they end up in having small cumulus clouds. They form clouds. So these are the hot air rising up. When we take off and fly, or when we get winched up and fly around that, you don't sink. The hot air keeps you up. As long as you are moving around in the hot air column or a circle, you will be not losing height. And the moment you are out of it, you will start gliding down. So all these are called gliders because they generally descend at a rate while gliding forward. So generally, typically they have a glide ratio of 1:7. That means for every feet of losing height, they move 7 feet forward, allowing us to travel and maneuver as well. And that's how you can plan your circuit and come and land.
So, based on this glide ratio and aerofoil design, does this principle also work with our everyday aeroplanes, all the Airbuses and
Yes, it
Boeings?
is same. In fact, if you remember the famous incident over the Hudson River mishap, where an aircraft landed with no engine, it landed nicely, glided, and landed on a water body. That's how most of the air routes are designed in such a manner that in case of engine failure, they always have open space for landing. We are surrounded by 70% of water. The Earth is surrounded, so almost everywhere. The moment you are at certain altitude, you can always go to one water body.
Wait a minute. So you mean that, what do you mean by air route? Like the way, if I want to go from here to Bandra, I would use Google Maps. If I want to fly from here to, let's say, I don't know, London, what is the map that I would use and who creates those maps? And are you saying that it is designed in a way to make sure that if a plane engine fails, they have spaces
Yes,
to land?
yes,
Would you like
definitely.
to
And
share?
all over the world, all these things are mapped long time ago, and they were mapped by the transmitters fitted on high altitude locations, like in Vasai, where we are based.
Mm.
We have the tower at Tungareshwar, which
Oh.
is something like an entry point to Mumbai airport. So all aircrafts coming from, say, north of India, as the moment they came over here, they used to connect with the signals and they used to know, okay, this is the path where I have to come here. And then they communicated with the Mumbai airport.
So you mean like the tower at Tungareshwar is like
Air India
it's
tower,
a
yes.
it's a radar controlled.
Correct. Yes, yes. But now, of course, with the GPSs, all this has become a bit outdated. So, see, we have lat longs been there from Galileo's time. The Earth is mapped. So, we already have GPS systems which were there, though not the way we are having them today. But they were there right from the beginning about your positioning. So, that's how even the world was discovered. I mean, we were talking about
Vasco da Gama.
Vasco da Gama.
Yeah.
Navigation is not new.
So how did you even think of starting? You run an institute. You're teaching air sports. What do you teach, and who are the people who come to you, and what do you teach them? And it'll be really very interesting because there may be so many people in Mumbai who are probably just an hour away from here and don't know that this is available.
Yes, even now, see, as children, everyone is inquisitive about flying, and the desire or dream of flying is always there, inborn with us. As children, when you hear a helicopter sound, it's quite normal even for an elderly person to look out and try to spot the helicopter. It's that curiosity. Maybe because we as humans are not really what do you call designed to, or maybe not. Flying is not a normal thing. But when we look at birds, there's a small mind mortal birds, and basically they can fly and enjoy the freedom you see with associated with flying. We always have that dream of flying, but somehow or the other we are limited by our own what do you call visualization, or maybe our own thoughts. But several years, centuries ago, people broke that and had the first flight. The Wright brothers had the first flight. So we basically are inquisitive about these things, and if you basically think of possibilities, then we will be able to achieve many things. That's how we have discovered so many things as such. So when I talk about flying or something, as children we started making paper planes or maybe flying kites, and most of people like me in the villages used to chase dragonflies and all. And there, that inquisitiveness was there. And for me, I had seen this scene in a movie called Yarana, where for the first time I thought humans could basically fly with a simple contraption of cloth and some sticks and all. So hang gliding was the first thing which I'd seen somewhere in early 70s. And that made me think that, oh, boss, you can fly. You don't need an aircraft to fly. You can have something like a kite. In fact, the term used in that movie was Vilaiti kite. So Vilaiti Padang say that's, I mean, I don't know whether you have seen that movie, but we had this famous duo, Amitabh Bachchan and Amjad Khan. So they were friends, and one guy was abroad and he came back to meet his friend and bought this hang glider. And as children, they used to fly kites. So he said, this is Vilayati Patang and you can fly. And that stayed in my head. That, "Okay, boss, you can fly with a simple contraption." And as I grew up somewhere in the early 80s, I heard about some hang gliding pilots in India, in Himachal Pradesh. And that came on the news. In fact, we had TV had just come and we could watch news. And we saw that clip of some hang gliding happening in India. I said, boss, yes, it's possible now to fly. You don't have to fly in an aircraft. You can make something or you can learn to fly as a hobby. That kept me going. And the moment I had some money and I was a little bit stable, I thought, let me explore. And fortunately for me, I came to know that there is flying happening in Virar. There is someone in Virar who's going to teach or who's come here to teach paragliding to people. So the moment I heard that, it was like, so I came here and I think within 2 months, I had joined the course and it was so addictive that I decided to leave my well-settled job. I mean, when I say well-settled, I had a company office of a company house in Mumbai. I was getting close to ₹1,00,000 salary in 90s. And I decided to quit everything. I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And I started working from home and got into this. And slowly, it was so enjoyable to be in the air, even if it is for 2 minutes or even if it is for 5 minutes. You are at peace when you are in there. You don't think, it's like meditation. You don't have to think about anything else. You are just nice in a remote place near a mountain or something, floating in the air. You are looking at the nature. Mostly it used to be sunsets during that time because evening flyings. And calm and nice, and you could glide slowly and have a nice touchdown. That feeling was so addictive. It made me quit job, and not only quit job. I thought, why not share it with others? Slowly, I thought of teaching it to others, because for me, that person who had come here was only for 2 or 3 days, and after that he went back to his country. But we retained some of the equipment, and we started flying on our own progressing. And then somewhere in the year 2002, I started my own club, and it was a what do you call a challenge to start something new that time. But things do happen if you have a strong desire and you have clarity about what you want in life. Things are possible. You can achieve a lot of things.
It's almost what 25 years since you started your flying school.
Almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years, huh? Since you've been, and you actually have a flying school.
Yeah,
I would say that, right? You've taught so many students. I think maybe more than 500 students.
More than 650 students to fly from the mountain, and close to about 80 people now with motorized flying. So this is a slight change. Now we have flying from the mountain where you just use the updraft of wind, which is hitting the hill and going up. Motorized flying is same thing, but you can take off and land from a flat ground. You don't have to go to a remote mountain.
You don't need the thermal now.
You don't need the thermals now because you have motor. And the wing is the same. It's the same parachute. You need open spaces. Fortunately, in Vasai, there are open spaces. I hope they'll last for a few more years. But yes, there are open spaces.
One thing that I really remember you say is that because I remember the first time I was on top of the hill and I had to take
first takeoff.
Yeah, the first takeoff. When you were there, and I was like, Samson, I'm scared. And I remember what you said. You said, fear is good because it knows you're alive.
That's true. Yes.
And that statement has just like held me in so many other situations all through my life. After I think I probably learned under you about 15 years ago, but it's been there. And my wife, who's so scared of heights, she also learned, right? She also learned under you, and she did her solo flights, and it just creates so much of confidence in an individual. And I just want to say, like, your focus and emphasis on all the small things, all your pre-flight checks, I still remember it, your pre-flight checks and everything that you're always talking about in terms of safety, in terms of all the things, all the actions that the pilot has to do and take responsibility. I think that has been phenomenal. There may be a lot of people who teach across the world, but how many of them really focus on safety,
Safety.
right? Especially in India.
Correct.
The reason is because I heard this from you at one point in my life. I heard this that India doesn't not always creates the policy first. When enough amount of accidents happen,
Then they think about.
that's when they think of
I won't say only in India. It's all over the world.
okay.
It's not only limited to India. Even today, the sport is not regulated. The sport, air sports, hobby sports are not regulated as such in many countries. There is a reason for it. The moment government regulates, government is taking responsibility. If it allows you to fly officially, that means it has checked something. And that also restricts, because when they are taking responsibility, they will put restrictions because they don't want to get blamed. So they are happy to allow things go unregulated because that helps people to explore. The moment some government, that's how all over the world, they are trying to have regulated minimum. They don't want to try to restrict it too much. They want to have some control for safety purposes, but they still want you to explore. Because how else otherwise you will experiment? Because rules can basically limit your experimentation purpose, because they will not allow you to do such a thing. So regulations is a double-edged sword, sort of. So it is necessary, especially when it comes to you offering joyrides to people. But when someone wants to indulge it for himself, want to explore, he shouldn't have restrictions. He should be able to explore himself. So that's why regulations came very late in India. Only in the year 2022, we had National Air Sports Policy of India. I'm talking about only 2 years back, we had a National Air Sports Policy. Till that time, we didn't have an air sports policy.
So we had all these hand gliding and paragliding centers.
They were unregulated as such. They were not controlled by the Director General of Civil Aviation nor by the Ministry of Civil Aviation. But now the sport is increasing. You can see the sport developing all over India. So some kind of regulation is necessary. So they have come out with guidelines. And now they have formed commissions for various sports. So we have a central body. We have Ministry of Civil Aviation. We have a Director General of Civil Aviation. They generally look at commercial airlines. But now they are also trying to, they came with a policy for hobby sports. Now in hobby sports, we have skydiving, we have paragliding, parasailing, we have microlight flying, we have aeromodeling, and so on. So there are about around 9 to 10 different kind of sports. Now the government has formed commissions for each sports. So they have taken technically expert people from this sport and made them the core members of this commission. Now they will try to regulate to some extent to reduce the risk factors and accident rates, to minimize the accident rates if at all they are happening. So there are incidences happening. As the sport grows, this will keep on happening. It's like even today, on the vehicles, we cannot stop an accident on the road. We can't ban those things. Just because there is an accident, we don't stop an airline flight. Or no, we don't ban riding bikes. What we try to do is have discipline, have rules, have guidelines. So that's what will happen for air sports now. We'll have certain guidelines when you're dealing with a common man who is not aware of what the sport is, but he's coming to you and experiencing that sport. So it's the operator's responsibility to maintain the minimum safety standards, to minimize risks as much as possible. And the customer who comes to take a joyride, he should be aware that there are risk factors and he should be knowingly joining them. And he has the option of asking and checking the credentials. He can ask about what is the safest weather, or is this a safe weather, or are you guys trained? So there are certain things can be asked by a common person who is coming to enjoy the sport, and they can satisfy themselves. They feel like it, they can opt for taking a joyride.
Which means people who probably don't want to get trained, but they land up in Panchgani or they land up in Beer or any of these places.
They come to Vasai.
Or you can come to Vasai. Yeah. Why to go to Panchgani or Beer or Goa? You can come to Vasai as well. But those are 5 or 6 questions that they need to ask.
Yes. They should know whether the equipment is airworthy. Is it tested? Are the operators qualified? Do they have enough knowledge of the sport? What are the safety things they have in case of engine failure? For example, in paramotoring, if the engine fails, what are the chances that we not end up in an accident? So these questions they should definitely ask, get themselves satisfied. And if they feel their professional team is there, they should basically enjoy. But yes, commercial angles, there are people at tourist destination who try to speed up things and don't bother of doing pre-flight checks. Equipment is not maintained, and that's where the risk factors increase. And that's a sorry state that many a times in when it comes to monetary gains, people do try to do shortcuts. But there are equal number of professionals in this field.
So your safety is your responsibility.
Yes,
so
yes,
so
yes.
people have to ask these questions and kind of make sure.
So
that-
here I would like to add that I had some writing background. So I have written technical manuals for the sport. So technical manuals and guidelines. So we have now something called a standard rating system, skill level rating. So we basically have question answers for the operators who basically will know that, okay, he has enough knowledge about the equipment, he has knowledge about the weather conditions, and he has skills to fly. So once you do that, you get rated as a qualified person. So all you have to do is check whether he has some kind of a rating on experience certificate. That means he'll fly with minimum safety standards. I mean maximum safety standards. Will minimize the risk factor.
risk factor. What is the kind of age you think, boys, girls, gender, age? Who have you seen coming and learning from you, both
There are-
hill flying as well as paramotoring?
There are people as young as about 10 and 11-year-old who have come and flown, but those are exceptions. But generally in aviation, 14 years is a standard age where a person has a mental maturity and he will be able to take his own decisions. Because when it comes to flying, you are flying alone. You are taking your own decisions, whether to go right, whether to go left, and when you are coming for landing, whether to flare and slow down your descent. So that knowledge, minimum maturity is necessary. Weight wise also, he has to be more than 35 kgs in weight. So generally people at around 14 of years of age generally fit the criteria, and that's an official age for air sports in India. Not in India, internationally I would say.
That's interesting. And you've had a lot of people who have even come after 50
70s. In fact, my oldest student was 72-year-old person.
in Vasai. They've
Vasai,
come.
yes,
They've
yes.
come to Vasai.
Come to Vasai and successfully, nicely had enjoyed his flight. And 60 plus, there are quite a lot because in India, many times you think about doing things when you retire. So there are people who come after retirement to enjoy the sport.
Very interesting.
And of late, yes, there are youngsters also come when they pass their 10th standard and they come to.
That's amazing. So when I get out of my house and I see a car on the road, there is some regulation that car is following, right? There's a Motor Vehicle Act, there are rules regulating traffic signals, so many things, right? Safety signals and things like that. But when I look up and I see you flying, it almost feels like there's no regulation. Almost feels like that. And really, like, are you breaking the law in when you're doing that? That's the first question. And the second question, I personally know that you've done a lot of work with respect to trying and bringing more organization, including, I think, the Paragliding Association of India. And there's so many things that you've been doing. I'd also want you to share some story, any interesting story that you have. I know that there's some random helicopter pilot who called you a paratrooper at one point. Would you like to share those stories?
Yes.
And what did you do and how did you get in touch with the commissionerate? And
To begin with, these are not illegal activities. See, flying as a sport or a hobby, or many such hobbies which you see, any adventure hobby need not be illegal activity. So this is a legal activity. You're doing it for yourself. Now, when it comes to the government is bothered about, are you doing anything against someone's wish? For example, you are using someone's property without his consent. So naturally, then if incident happens, the landowner gets into trouble. Though he is not involved with you in your activity, he gets into trouble because the incident happened in his property. So the first and foremost thing which is necessary all over the world is landowner's permission. Whether it is a private property, whether it's a government land, do you have the permission of the owner to use that space for your activity? It's common sense, but this is one which is required. Secondly, we also have police should be aware of what's happening, because with the terrorism thing or whether with the growing population, there can be illegal activities happening. If the police are aware that this is being happened and these are the people involved with it, they have no objection to it. but they don't like to have things happening in that area without their knowledge. So it's a good idea always to go and inform the police. So you take their NOC or something and you go and explain them. So this is the second thing which we have been doing. So the landowner's permission and this permission. Then all our areas are controlled by district collector. He is basically an authority of land for India. So he should be aware of it. So we have to take their NOC. And then we are using the airspace. Now, when your airspace is used, we are using airspace which can be used by other aircrafts as well. For example, we don't fly that high, but we fly where helicopters, Cessna aircrafts can be there. And they should be aware that someone else is also in the air. And when we fly, say up to 1,500 feet or something, we fly something called VFR, Visual Flying Rules. So there is something against, opposite of that is IF, Instrument Flying, IFR. So we fly VFR. Now VFR, we are supposed to watch and avoid. So there's not much traffic, but there can be helicopter movement. There can be other paraglider pilots. So there are certain rules about avoiding collision and what to do in case you come face to face with someone. So you're like in water and in air, we have a basic simple answer that you turn right. Both of you turn right to avoid each other. That's a basic thing like on the road. When we overtake, you overtake would be always from the one particular decided side. So these are basic things about legality. About incidences, yes.
Because I know between, I think from Worli, if I'm not mistaken, there are two helicopters that fly every day at 8 o'clock. One goes to, I think one goes
Palghar,
to JSW,
Yes,
I think, and one goes to Raymond.
Apart from that, there are helicopters which basically go to the Bombay High for the oil rigs because they have to drop the staff there. So there are certain number of flights which are happening regularly from Juhu Airport.
I think they're at 2,000 feet or 1,500 feet.
They cannot come below 250 feet and they cannot fly above 750 feet. So they have a weight ceiling.
You're saying between 250 feet
and 750
and 750 feet. That's when they're flying, right? Okay.
This is particular rule for this Vasai belt.
Because we are a radar controlled airport from
yes,
there are commercial landings happening.
So we have the airspace is divided into various sections and we come under class D airspace where we have restrictions about height and all. For example, for hobby flying, generally we can fly up to 1,200 feet without much of a problem all over the world. Not only in India, all over the world, up to 1,200 feet because other big aircrafts don't fly there.
Which means that you are now in that helicopter zone.
Yes. So we share airspace with helicopters and Cessna aircrafts.
And is the helicopter also when a Cessna or a helicopter is flying, are they also using VFR?
Yes, they are VFI, of course.
So the pilot is looking out to avoid anything.
Yes, but apart from that, we have something called a NOTAM. So NOTAM is a notice to airmen. So NOTAM is issued when you obtain permission to fly. So these NOTAMs are basically referred to by a pilot while he's flying. If he's flying a route, for example, say Juhu Airport to say Surat Airport. Now, if he's flying a Cessna aircraft or he's flying a helicopter between these two destinations, he has to see whether there are any NOTAMs issued. That is notice to airmen issued about any other kind of flying.
Is that from Bombay ATC?
Yeah, it is by Airport Authority of India.
Okay, AAI.
ATC basically will control the airspace. So we have air traffic controller who has to know that, okay, we have started our activity, we may be flying for 2 hours and then when we complete our activity, we have to report completion to them. So we have to take airspace clearance before takeoff and we have to report completion after the landing is done.
So if there's a VVIP movement, let's say one of the political ministers and all, they may tell you don't fly. Give you a no-fly zone.
So then generally have minimum two telephone numbers when they issue a NOTAM, so that in case person is flying, there will be someone else on the ground. And we have about 3 to 4 minutes to descend and land in case of action. So VIP movement is one, but air defense is something which is very serious thing. And we have something called AFMLU, Air Force Flight Movement Licensing Unit. And they are always ready to safeguard our boundaries. So in that case, in order to stay away from the radar, they can fly as low as 100 feet also. Now, when I'm saying Air Force
100 feet is like 10-floor building. 10-floor building.
Yeah. So they can fly and they will be flying the fighter aircraft.
Like a MiG.
Yeah. And there can be missiles fired at that height. So they should know who is in the air at that time. So they can immediately tell them to boss, emergency, everyone has to get down and it's on alert.
So
no
does a
flag
paraglider or a paramotor, does it reflect on
no, on the radar,
on a radar of at ATC
it's
Mumbai?
fabric, they will not. But there are ways for them to know what's happening because the local police can report to the ATC and other aircrafts can report to the ATC that some activity is happening. And that's how we got into trouble once. In the year 2010, we had a helicopter pilot who saw us flying at Black Beauty in Virar. And he was not aware because there was no NOTAM. There was no rule. In fact, we tried to ask the government to give us official permission, and no one was bothering about replying to us. And this guy, helicopter pilot, because we had the incident of 9/11 in India, and he said, I saw some paratroopers northwest of Mumbai. And the big search started. Who are these paratroopers? Because he used the word paratrooper instead of paraglider.
It's a
He
military
himself was
term.
not aware.
It's a military term.
So he said it's paratroopers. And this went.
Because I remember at Black Beauty, 6 or 7 of us used to fly, right?
Correct,
at one
correct.
point in time.
So he saw us flying there and he reported. And the police had no clue and the ATC had no clue. So they thought maybe the Pakistanis have come to India
Infringement. Huh?
and it was a terrorist attack or something like that. And fortunately for us, we didn't get into trouble because we had already communicated with the local police station in writing that we are doing this activity. So when the search happened, more than 200 police were deployed to search who are these paratroopers and where they have landed. So we have Tarapur Atomic Center in this place, Tarapur. So
That's
lot of
just
police
like
went there.
50 kilometers from
Yeah.
here, huh? Maybe 40.
Lot of police went there to see if that was being attacked or something like that. And all over the place, people were spread. The police were spread because they did not get the exact location. Now, the mistake of that helicopter pilot who reported, it is good that he reported as a this thing.
It's a civic
But-
responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. But then he should have been more specific in giving locations. It would have saved a lot of trouble to people.
Because Northwest is a big
It's a big area. So finally, around sunset time, as we had all landed, a policeman came on a bike and they just checked whether we were flying. They said, yes, if you're flying, just come to the police station. And we were taken and I was taken to the base of Jivdani. There were more than 200 policemen in line with guns and all. And this guy told me, see, this is all because of you. I was not aware what happened. So I said, why? He said, you guys are doing this activity without informing. Fortunately, I had a piece of paper with me in my car that time to show that, okay, the police were aware of what we were doing. So we got spared. But that helped us in getting things regularized. From that time onwards, the police took us seriously, the administration took us seriously, and they started finding ways of how they can give us permission. Then they passed a GR and all. And today we are officially flying with all permissions.
Amazing. So when do you teach? Could you give us some, like, there could be so many school owners and school principals and so many people who might want to now fulfill their dream. I mean, getting a CPL or a commercial flight license or even a PPL, which is a private pilot's license, I mean, you need to spend 20 lakh rupees. And I remember the last time I came to fly with you, there was a commercial pilot who was flying, and he said, for the first time in my life, I'm actually feeling like I'm flying.
Yes. The costs are high of training. Commercial is very high today. It's more than 1 crore of rupees for getting a commercial pilot license. But as a hobby pilot, you can fly with as less as about 20,000-25,000 rupees. You can learn how to fly on your own from the mountain. So there is a course for about 3 days to 4 days.
And you teach it.
Yeah, I have stopped teaching paragliding. So paragliding I'm talking about is available today for anyone who wants to explore the sport. For about 25,000 rupees, you can end up having about 4 to 5 solo flights from the mountain. When it comes to paramotoring, the costs are a little higher because the training is a little more serious and expenses
Equipment
are
is
higher.
very expensive.
So you can spend about 30,000 rupees and learn the skill of paramotoring. You do more number of flights in paramotoring as compared to mountain flying. So a bit expensive, but still affordable. 30,000 rupees is something for you to have few flights. It's
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so accessible, and especially a hobby or an experience such as flying, which looks so exclusive and just limited to very rich people, I think is democratized, especially because of people like you. So in many ways, you're like a crusader helping the community. I'm just going to bring this to a closure, and just wanted to if there's anything that comes to your mind that you would like to share at this, because the people who watch Will Talks are usually people in education who run schools, who are always looking at helping people, students build career and also, widen their horizons. I was reading the newspaper today, and I don't know if you know about the whole Indigo fiasco, right? Over 1,000 flights have been cancelled. DGCA is coming up with rules that talk about creating
Fatigue, yeah.
anti-fatigue policies for pilots, and now they're talking about the need for over
More pilots.
20,000 new pilots
Yeah.
are needed in this country over the next couple of years, which means that these are career opportunities for students who are currently in our schools, everywhere. And before parents actually feel like they want to send their kid and spend 1 crore in getting them, rated as a commercial pilot, or look for a CPL, I think parents should explore
Yes.
opportunities like this. Spend maybe 1 lakh rupees or something and come to the beautiful town of Vasai, and work with the absolute best trainer who can teach their children how to fly, and not just teaching them the techniques, but building the mindset and the thinking required, because so many things that you told me and you taught me while I just learned to fly, I'm using in life, right?
Yes.
And so having that opportunity, as long as you're available here, I think is something that parents and school owners and school leaders should consider.
Very true. See, it helps in building a person also. See, when you do paragliding, for example, you work out, you understand the basics, you get your foundations correct. So you learn something. Then you climb the mountain, you do the hard work of climbing up, and you are rewarded with a nice flight. So it teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how to be meticulous, how to be organized, how to be on time, punctual, because if you're not on time, you'll not get the best thermals to fly. So paragliding is a sport actually teaches you so many things which are useful in life. Plus, it gives you confidence. Basically, how many people will take up this hobby and fly? Not everyone will have time and the energy or missing the thing. So even today, the number of hobby pilots is very, very small. If you look at paramotoring, the sport which you see in Vasai, if you try to figure out in our population of how many crores we have in population, there are only 500 people who do paramotoring in India. Look at the percentage.
That is such an exclusive group. Yeah.
And it's not that it's not affordable. For many people today, 3,500 rupees for having a flight is not really a big amount, because the experience is huge. In Vasai, you get a bird's eye view. Because when you go up in the sky, you have the Sahyadri range. People are not even aware that there are mountains in Vasai. But yes, we have mountains in Vasai. We have the whole lot of open space, the railway line, the construction building. Then we have a nice green zone of about 3 kilometers, followed by a coast of more than 17 kilometers. So when you're up in the sky, you actually enjoy the beauty of Vasai. So when you come and fly for 10 minutes with us, our joyride is originally for 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, you experience the takeoff, which is a nice rush, and you get a feel. And it's very safe and simple. When you glide up, then you cruise. When you cruise, where the throttle is reduced, and then you can basically look around. Mostly you can see sunset and sunrise, because we fly only in the mornings and evenings. Beautiful coastline. You can see very dramatic sky in the morning. The sun is rising up, and you can see same in the evening. The sun is setting up, and we are sitting there. You can see the seashore coastline, and you are gliding. And the operators, of course, we are more than generally the tandem operators who offer you joyrides have more than 5 years of experience, minimum 5 years of experience. So they are very, very safe, and this equipment is very safe. In case of engine failure, you just glide down. The parachute is always open.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't take off if the parachute is not open. You cannot take off.
You cannot. You need a fully inflated wing. Right?
So it's not like skydiving. So paragliding and paramotoring is very safe. People should explore. This also builds a foundation for someone who wants to take this sport as a career. Now, as a career, you can open training schools, or you can offer joyrides to people. So in Vasai, the ground where I fly, there can be 10 more schools or 10 more people offering joyrides.
That's over, I think, 2,000 acres of open land.
Yes. And I have no monopoly of that. In fact, more the merrier, because it will keep check, and we will have more people. And if the commercials are better, it might further reduce the costs. So there is scope for people to offer joyrides in Vasai, and they can offer training centers in Vasai.
Incredible.
And you won't believe, there are hardly 1 or 2 training centers in the whole of the country, which are good, I would say, with reputation, which follow this. And there is so much of scope. With this knowledge, you can also move on to sailplane glidings and commercial airlines, because a lot of theory is same. We teach about weather, we teach about limitations of the equipment, we teach about being particular. So that helps in taking it further.
Incredible. And I also hope that you do workshops in schools for aero modeling or anything like that. And if any schools would like to invite you for talking to their their
Yeah, it will
students.
be interesting to talk, though maybe a little bit more preparation will help, because it will be a focused question and answer session where I could cramp in more information in minimum time for schools.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would definitely be interesting.
So right now on the screen, what you should be able to see is Samson's social media links, so that you could go to the social media page, and it should also be in the description. And hopefully, you'll find his work very exciting. And perhaps this is that calling that you were waiting to hear. We'd love to host you in Vasai and make sure that you can learn under the absolutely fabulous Samson D'Silva, and get themselves or get their children to learn this fascinating sport.
Yeah, it will be a pleasure to get people introduced to the sport.
Thank you so much for being here today.